All right. I'm going to tell you this exactly how it happened, because even now, months later, I still catch myself staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m., wondering how I missed what was right in front of me. My name is Leola Hare. I'm 35 years old, a systems architect, and I live alone in the house my grandparents left me when they passed. It's not flashy, just a solid, paid-off place with creaky floors, an overgrown backyard, and a sense of stability I fought hard to earn. I've always been careful with my life, maybe overly careful. When I was 6, my father walked out. No goodbye, no explanation, just gone. I remember my mom sitting on the bathroom floor late at night, crying quietly so I wouldn't hear. I remember her counting coins on the kitchen table, trying to stretch groceries for another week. That kind of childhood leaves a mark. It teaches you early that love without responsibility can destroy people. So I grew up determined to never let anyone pull the ground out from under me. I built my career. I bought nothing I couldn't afford. I dated, but I didn't rush. I kept my finances separate. I watched friends turn into emotional and financial punching bags in bad relationships, and I swore I'd never be one of them. Then I met Damian Cross. It was at a friend's wedding about 2 years ago. One of those outdoor ceremonies where everyone's half drunk on champagne before the vows even start. I was a bridesmaid. Damian was in the groom's party. We got paired up for photos, laughed about how uncomfortable the shoes were, and somehow ended up talking by the bar like we'd known each other for years. Damian had that quiet confidence people mistake for maturity. Clean cut, well-dressed, real estate agent, nice car, the kind of man who looks like he has his life together and doesn't need rescuing. That mattered to me. He listened when I talked, asked real questions, didn't check his phone every 2 minutes. When he smiled at me, it felt focused, like I was the only person in the room. There was just one small thing, one detail I brushed off when I shouldn't have. He mentioned his ex-girlfriend Erica on the very first night. Not in a dramatic way, just casually. My ex would never dance like this. My ex hated weddings. My ex thought crying during speeches was embarrassing. Each time, he laughed it off, like he was mocking the past. And I laughed too, because I didn't want to be that woman, interrogating a man she'd just met. But something in my stomach tightened every time her name came up. People don't talk about exes that much unless they're still emotionally nearby. I knew that. I just chose to ignore it. A month later, we were officially dating. The first 6 months were good, genuinely good. Damian was charming and attentive. He remembered how I took my coffee. He sent good morning texts. He showed up when he said he would. When we went out to eat, he'd insist on splitting the check sometimes, which I appreciated more than he knew. It made me feel like we were equals. I didn't realize those moments were an investment, a way to build trust before asking for more. Around month 7, the little emergencies started. The first time felt harmless, almost sweet. Damian called me one afternoon, voice shaking, saying his car had broken down on the highway. The tow truck driver wanted $200 cash, and Damian didn't have it. He sounded embarrassed, asking, ashamed. I drove out there without hesitation, paid the driver, and made sure Damian got home safely. He hugged me like I'd just saved him. 2 weeks later, he Venmo'd me back. That's the moment my brain labeled him safe. Because if someone pays you back once, you assume they'll do it again. I was wrong. The next time, it was his rent. His landlord was being unreasonable, and he needed $400 to avoid a late fee. He promised he'd pay me back by the end of the month. The end of the month came, and suddenly there was an unexpected dental bill. The month after that, it was car insurance. Then a surprise tax issue. There was always something, always urgent, always framed like he was so close to getting back on his feet. When I gently asked about repayment, Damian didn't get angry. He got wounded. Leola, I thought you trusted me. Why are you making money such a big deal? I'm already stressed. Do we really need to fight about this? So I stopped asking. Not because I didn't care, but because I cared too much. Because I didn't want to be the girlfriend who kept score. I told myself this was what support looked like. Around month 8, Erica's name started coming up more often. At first, it sounded like background noise. Erica's struggling right now. Erica can't catch a break. Erica's hours got cut. Each time, Damian would sigh, like he was carrying her burdens on his shoulders. I remember thinking, why do you still know this much about your ex's life? But I stayed quiet. I told myself they were just friends. Adults can be friends with exes, right? Month 10 is when things shifted. We were out at dinner, one of those upscale places where the lighting makes everything feel softer than it really is. I paid. like usual. Damien waited until the food arrived, until I relaxed. Then he put his fork down and looked at me like he was about to say something important. Erica called me yesterday, he said. I kept cutting my steak. Okay. He reached across the table and touched my hand. She's really struggling, Leola. I finally looked up. His eyes were glossy, practiced. She's 3 months behind on rent, he continued. She might get evicted. That's rough, I said carefully. Damien squeezed my hand. I was thinking, maybe we could help her out. I froze. We? I asked. He nodded. Just for a couple months, until she gets back on her feet. You could cover her rent. It wouldn't be a big deal for you. My stomach dropped. Are you asking me to pay your ex-girlfriend's rent? I asked slowly. It's not like that, he said quickly. How is it not exactly like that? I replied. I don't even know her. She's still important to me, Damien said. We were together for years. I can't just abandon her. That sentence hit harder than I expected. I pulled my hand back. Damien, I said calmly, I'm not paying your ex's rent. That's insane. His expression changed instantly. The warmth vanished. The room felt colder. He didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice. He just went quiet. And the silence between us felt heavy, like a warning I didn't fully understand yet. Because that night wasn't the end of the conversation. It was the beginning of something much worse. Damien didn't speak to me for 3 days after that dinner. No texts, no calls, nothing. At first, I told myself he just needed space. That maybe I'd embarrassed him. That maybe I'd been too blunt. I replayed the conversation over and over in my head, wondering if there was a softer way I could have said no. By day 2, the silence started to feel intentional. By day 3, it felt like punishment. Then, on the 4th day, he showed up at my house like nothing had happened. Same smile, same warm tone. He kissed my cheek, asked how my day was, and commented on how nice my living room looked in the evening light. No apology, no acknowledgement, no resolution. And that was the moment I should have ended it. But instead, I let myself believe that the awkwardness had passed, that maybe he'd realized how unreasonable his request was and decided to drop it. I didn't yet understand that silence was his leverage. 2 weeks later, we were at my place watching a movie when Damien casually said, "Oh, Erica's electricity got shut off." I didn't look away from the screen. That's unfortunate. He shifted closer to me. It's only like $300 to turn it back on. My chest tightened. No, I said flatly. Damien sighed like I was the exhausting one. Leola, come on, that's nothing to you. It's not nothing, I replied, and it's not my responsibility. He turned to face me fully. You're being selfish. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was surreal. I'm selfish because I won't pay my boyfriend's ex-girlfriend's utility bill? His eyes filled with tears, real ones, or at least convincing ones. I just can't believe you won't help someone in need, he said quietly. I thought you were a good person. That hit me harder than I expected. I am a good person. I've worked my whole life to be one. I help people when it matters, when it's real, when it's honest. But this felt wrong. I help people I care about, I said, and people who haven't crossed lines. Erica isn't either of those things. Damien stood up, grabbed his jacket, and walked out without another word. He didn't come back for a week. When he did, he acted, again, like nothing had happened. This became the pattern. He'd ask me to pay for something related to Erica. I'd say no. He'd disappear, sulk, post vague quotes online. Then he'd come back, affectionate and calm, like the argument never existed. Each time, the requests got bigger. Erica needs new tires. Could you Venmo her $600? She's behind on car insurance. She can't afford a dentist visit. Her phone got shut off. Just $150 to turn it back on. Every time I refused. Every time Damien made me feel like a monster. He started posting things on social media. Cryptic captions about loyalty, about learning who really has your back, about fake people revealing themselves. His friends flooded the comments with heart emojis and encouragement. None of them knew the truth. My friend Owen noticed. We grabbed drinks one night, and he squinted at his phone, then at me. Why does Damien keep posting like he's being betrayed? You guys fighting? I hesitated, then sighed. He wants me to financially support his ex-girlfriend. Owen nearly choked on his beer. He what? Every week it's something else she needs, I said. And I'm the bad guy for saying no. Owen stared at me like I'd just told him I'd joined a cult. Leola, that's insane. Why are you still with him? I didn't have a good answer. I think part of me kept hoping he'd stop, that he'd realize how far he was pushing, that we'd go back to how things were in the beginning, before money and manipulation took over everything. But that version of Damien was gone. Or maybe it never existed at all. There's something important I need to explain now, because it becomes very relevant later. When I was 28, I had a vasectomy. It wasn't impulsive, it wasn't emotional, it was deliberate. I grew up watching what instability does to people, watching my mom barely survive. I decided early I didn't want children. I liked my independence, my freedom, my ability to travel, to save, to breathe without constant fear. 7 years ago, I made it permanent. Damien knew this. We talked about it early, third or fourth date. He said he was fine with it. Said he wasn't sure he even wanted kids. Said his career mattered more. I believed him. Fast forward to month 15, Valentine's Day. I took Damien to an expensive steakhouse, the kind where prices aren't listed, and the waiter shaves truffle onto your plate like it's a ceremony. I dropped $400 on dinner. He ordered lobster, the best wine, dessert. I didn't mind. Despite everything, I still cared. When we got back to his place, he sat on the couch with that look, the one that makes your stomach drop. Leola, we need to talk. And I knew. Erica was about to become my problem again. The moment Damien said, we need to talk, my body reacted before my brain did. My shoulders tensed. My chest felt tight. I already knew where this was going, and some part of me was exhausted just thinking about it. We were sitting on his couch. The TV was still on, the glow from the screen flickering across his face. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, hands clasped like he was about to deliver bad news. Erica's about to be evicted, he said quietly. Like, for real this time. I let out a slow breath. Damien. Let me finish, he cut in. I've been thinking about this a lot. That sentence alone should have scared me. She has nowhere to go, he continued. And I can't just abandon her. We were together for 5 years. She's been a huge part of my life. I stared at the floor, counting the cracks in the wood, trying to stay calm. You're not responsible for her, I said carefully. But I feel responsible, he replied. And you have this big house. It's just you there. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. Erica could stay in your guest room, just for a few months, until she gets back on her feet. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was absurd. You want your ex-girlfriend to move into my house, I said slowly. It's temporary, he insisted. She wouldn't be any trouble. She's a good person, Leola. You'd like her if you gave her a chance. My laugh died instantly. You want me to live with your ex, I said. Share my home with her. Wake up knowing she's down the hall. That's what you're asking. Damien frowned, like I was being dramatic. You're overthinking it. No, I snapped. I'm thinking about it exactly the right amount. He stood up and started pacing. Fine. If you won't let her stay with you, then you need to pay her rent. My heart dropped. Excuse me? 6 months, he said. Just 6. $1,200 a month. That's $1,700 total. You can afford it. I felt something inside me crack. Why would I do that? I asked. Because I'm asking you to, he replied. Because I need this from you. Because if you actually loved me, you'd help the people I care about. That was it. That was the moment everything became crystal clear. What kind of relationship is this? I asked quietly, where you're more worried about your ex than your girlfriend. He stopped pacing and looked me dead in the eye. If you don't help Erica, he said, we're done. I mean it. This relationship is over. The room went silent. I stared at him for a long moment, letting the words sink in. Then I nodded. Okay. Damien blinked. Okay? Yes, I said, standing up and grabbing my coat. Okay, we're done. His face drained of color. Wait, what? You said if I don't help Erica, we're over, I replied calmly. I'm not helping her, so we're over. Leola, wait, he stammered. I didn't mean it like that. You meant it exactly like that, I said. You just didn't think I'd call your bluff. I walked out. I blocked his number before I even started the car. For the first time in over a year, I slept peacefully. 3 months later, my doorbell rang on a Saturday morning. I'd just gotten back from the gym, still in leggings and a hoodie, making coffee when I opened the door. Damien stood there. He looked awful. Eyes red, hair unwashed, clothes wrinkled, like someone who hadn't slept in days. We need to talk, he said. We really don't, I replied, starting to close the door. I'm pregnant. I froze. Then I laughed. Hard. Damien's face twisted in anger. You think this is funny? No, I said, wiping my eyes. I think it's impossible. What? I had a vasectomy, I reminded him. 7 years ago. Confirmed. 0 sperm count. Those can fail, he snapped. I had it checked 2 years ago, I said calmly, still sterile. His face flushed red. It has to be yours, he insisted. You're the only person I've been with. That's interesting, I replied, because we broke up 3 months ago, and we haven't had sex in over 4. Silence. Damien, I said, call Erica. I'm sure she'll be thrilled. His eyes filled with panic. You're really going to abandon your child? He cried. It's not my child, I said flatly. And if you show up here again, I'll call the police. 2 weeks later, I received a certified letter. Damien was suing me for paternity and child support. And that's when I decided I was done being nice. The certified letter felt heavier than it should have. I remember standing in my kitchen, envelope in one hand, coffee going cold on the counter, reading the words over and over like they might rearrange themselves into something less insane. Paternity claim, child support, medical expenses. They were demanding thousands immediately and hundreds more every month once the baby was born, all for a child that could not be mine. I didn't panic, not yet. I called Robert, the attorney who'd helped me settle my grandparents' estate years earlier. Calm, sharp, no nonsense. He listened quietly as I explained everything. The relationship, the breakup, the pregnancy claim, the vasectomy. Do you have documentation? He asked. Yes, I said. Original procedure paperwork. And a follow-up test from 2 years ago confirming 0 sperm count. There was a pause. Then he chuckled. Leola, this is the easiest paternity case I've ever heard. I brought everything to his office the next morning. Robert skimmed the records, nodded once, and said, "We'll shut this down fast." And we did. He filed a response denying paternity and included every piece of medical proof I had. He even offered, generously, to take a DNA test after the baby was born, just to remove any doubt. Damien's lawyer dropped him within a week. Apparently, Damien had lied, claimed I said I'd had a vasectomy but had no proof. When Robert sent over the documentation, the lawyer backed out immediately, threatening to report Damien for filing a frivolous lawsuit based on false information. That should have been the end. But Damien wasn't done. Next, he filed for a restraining order, claiming I was harassing him and endangering his unborn child. The judge looked at his paperwork, then looked at mine. Phone records, messages, proof I hadn't contacted him once since shutting the door in his face. "Ma'am," the judge said dryly, "you can't sue someone and then accuse them of harassment for defending themselves." Request denied. I walked out of that courtroom calm, but something had changed inside me. Because through a mutual friend, the truth finally came out. Damien had been sleeping with Erica the entire time we were together. Not checking in, not being supportive. Together. Living together, actually, starting around month 6. The same time the money problems began. The same time he started needing help with rent. My money. Every dollar I gave Damien went straight to supporting their life. Their groceries, their dates, their rent. I wasn't just being manipulated. I was being used to bankroll a relationship I didn't know existed. And when Erica got pregnant, Damien panicked and tried to pin it on me, forgetting one crucial detail. I'm sterile. That's when I stopped seeing him as pathetic and started seeing him as dangerous. I should have walked away, let karma handle it. But attempting to trap someone with a fake pregnancy, that's not heartbreak. That's fraud. So I started digging. I looked up Damien's real estate license. Public record. His transaction history. Also public. He'd closed 3 deals in 2 years. 3. Total commission, maybe 15 grand before fees and taxes? The image he'd sold me, successful, independent, stable, was a lie. His car lease, 3 months behind. His apartment, on the edge of eviction. His designer clothes, discount outlets with fancy tags. Then I looked up Erica, and that's when I found the smoking gun. Public social media posts, unlocked accounts, bragging captions. One from 8 months earlier, right in the middle of our relationship. Finally convinced my girl to let me move back in, living rent-free again. Sugar life is real. I took screenshots, saved backups, archived everything. More posts followed. Photos at restaurants I'd paid for. Wearing a jacket I remembered buying Damien after he said his old one was stolen. It hadn't been stolen. He'd given it to her. I compiled everything, every Venmo, every receipt, every loan, every excuse. Total, $10,147. Then I went back to Robert. "Can I sue him?" I asked. Robert leaned back, read through my spreadsheet, and smiled slowly. "That's fraud," he said. "Textbook." We filed the lawsuit. Fraud, misrepresentation, unjust enrichment. Damien tried to settle, offered to drop the paternity case if I dropped the fraud suit. No deal. I wanted the truth on record. The case went to trial 6 months later. I showed up with boxes of evidence. Bank statements showing money going from me to Damien, then from Damien to Erica days later. Social media posts, lease records, screenshots, text messages. Even Erica was subpoenaed. Under oath, she admitted they'd been together the whole time. Admitted she knew the money came from me. Admitted she didn't care. The jury deliberated for less than an hour. Fraud proven. Damien owed me restitution, legal fees, and court costs, just under $15,000. He didn't have it. Of course he didn't. The judgment went on his credit report. Public record. No more nice car leases, no more decent apartments, no more pretending to be someone he wasn't. I didn't stop there. I filed a complaint with the Real Estate Commission. They investigated. They found ethics violations, financial misconduct, misrepresentation. His license was revoked. Erica left him a month after the baby was born. He moved back in with his parents. Last I heard, he works at a warehouse and pays child support when they can find him. A few months ago, he tried to send a message through a mutual friend. Said he'd changed, said he was in therapy, said he hoped I could forgive him. I told my friend to pass along one message. Pay your debt first. All $14,847 of it. Maybe then we can talk about forgiveness. Until then, I sleep just fine. Because some people call this revenge. I call it accountability. And I finally learned the difference between being kind and being used.